Hello, I am here with Lia Parsons, who is based in the beautiful Mount Barker of South Australia, just a little way out of Adelaide. I was fortunate to meet Lia when I was travelling around Australia. Gosh, must be almost 2 years ago now. When I was in your area, and I was looking out for people and places that were approaching aging and care and community in different ways, and came upon Miller's Corner, which is an amazing example of housing being done differently for not just older people, but across generations. And I was so inspired by what Leah's created there that I was so excited to talk to you about it and have you share that story. And I'm so grateful that you've been able to jump on with me today. Thank you, Leah.
It's always good to have a talk to you, and I've enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, me too. There are so many things that we can and do and have spoken about around these topics, and there are so many different directions that I'm sure we could go. But I'd just love to start with Miller's Corner, and if you could tell us what that looks like and also the story behind it and how it came to be.
Well, Miller's Corner, yes. We moved more than 30 years ago from Sydney to Mount Barker, South Australia, due to a job change. And it was through a friend's connection that we stumbled upon this property, knowing that we were looking for a house. And this place was on nearly 2 acres of land, and it had this wonderful stone house on it, which was built by the previous owner. So that was very impressive. So we lived there pleasantly for a number of years, and then were approached by our neighbors, a developer who had bought a property next door to us. And the property next door was a home with land from an early settler, John Dunn. I think he was a parliamentarian too, as well as he was a miller. Anyhow, that property was sold to a developer, and the developer's intention, and has done so, is build a retirement village. So they approached us with the request, could they purchase our property as well? And that was not our intention. It was a beautiful stone house, and I hate to see something which was hand built, really, to be destroyed, destructed, to build more retirement villages. Also, with a background in occupational therapy and supporting people to age well at home. For myself personally, I don't like a retirement village, mainly because I'm challenged by people over the age of 55 living in what is often a gated community. And the majority of people in retirement villages are between 70 and onwards. For me, healthy community, healthy neighborhoods are people of all ages. So no was the answer to that developer. And then there was also a developer at the back on another couple of acres of land, which used to be all part of this early settlers' property, and again wished to purchase our land to build the standard brick veneers. And again we said no. But we realized that even when our time came, that this property would be purchased, and we may see things built which we didn't like. So we thought we need to do it ourselves. And also we had learned about co-housing communities. We visited co-housing communities within Australia and overseas, and then thought maybe that is something we could do. So to build a small village for people of all generations and abilities. And we have been able to achieve that. So, and still in the process. So yeah.
Yeah. And so tell us more about what that looks like now. How many people are living there? What are the dwellings like? What sort of ages are part of the community?
So we have got 10 houses nearly being built, or two are under construction and should be completed in the next couple of months. And then at the front, we still have 3 vacant blocks which have been sold, and those people are going through the process of getting architectural designs and then taking it to council. We've got a mixture of people. The youngest, I think, is the age of 10. So we've got families with children. And the oldest person, I think, is 84. Uh, and there are a number of people with a different background. So we have people from America, from the Netherlands. We've got a person from France. So there is a variety of nationalities as well. And as I mentioned, people with different abilities. There is a young person who will soon start building, who has been living with Down syndrome, but very capable of living independently. And that's community. We have all ages, all abilities. So the
Mm.
design has been that we made a car parking space at the front of the property and then built a loop. I don't know how to best describe it. A loop, and in the middle of that loop, a little roadway loop, there is Forest House, which is our community house. So the houses are all built in that sort of circle, which helps in a way because the community house is then a central part and people park at the front. So often by walking to your home, you meet one of your neighbors. So there's a lot of chit chat going around just by walking to your home. And it doesn't mean that you can't drive your car to your house. There is a young family who are all into playing ice hockey. So their sports equipment is quite big. So sometimes they just drive the car up to the front of their house, load up the car with the equipment, and off they go. But yeah, we don't park our cars near our houses. And it's again to just encourage engagement together,
Yeah.
which I believe we do very well. Once a month, we have a community meal in Forest House, so everybody brings something to share, or some person cooks because there is a kitchen in there as well. So we do connect and activities together. We have a variety of different committees. One is a gardening group. I believe this coming Sunday afternoon we'll have a garden working bee. One person has volunteered to make a big pot of soup and get some bread rolls. So after the work we'll have a catch up. We have a social committee, a variety of different committees. So not one person takes the responsibility. All of us have a responsibility to look after our community. But having said that, we may be the people who live at Miller's Corner and we are a community, but we are all very strongly connected to our neighbourhood as well. So with people next door in the retirement village, with people in our street and so on. And as part of a community with one of the residents here, we've also organized a picnic in the park, and our local community meant drop and little letter drop, an invitation to 350 households within the neighborhood, inviting them for a picnic in the park. And that's slowly happening again. For me, building community is so important for us to age well, but for all of us in the community, young families, older people, that's one
Yeah.
community. If we're talking about loneliness and social isolation, what are we doing about it?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that the design of the cars parked at the front is such a genius little tweak, isn't it? And it's such a simple thing. Who had the idea?
I don't know how it came about through various conversations.
Yeah,
And it
someone.
is a better way of doing it. It's got a couple of big gum trees too while you park a car under there, but It may not have been most suitable for a housing site. And again,
Yes.
with the building designs too, we have used sustainable building materials. So a good part is hempcrete, which is interesting. And so looking at that, to stay with that vision of connection. So each of our residents have their own homes, so to speak. And we have our divisions between the houses, but we've said no to collar-bond fences. So not having collar-bond fences. Come up with a division, could be a green division, could be a hedge or plants or something artistic or creative, and also not bring that division in front of your home. And I always give our daughter's small house as an example. If she sits in her front room or we sit on her little front porch and have a cup of tea, I look out onto the garden of all the neighbours. And then people planted these gorgeous plants, but it's not blocked off by collar-bond fences.
It really resonates with me because it's funny, I feel like I've kind of gone on this journey over the last few years from living very much in that sort of, standard inner city suburban environment where you would more or less kind of drive your car right up into the garage and walk straight into the house. And I lived in a small court, and when we moved into that neighbourhood, I was absolutely determined I was going to build community, get to know my neighbours. We were there for 3 years, and honestly, I never did. And then over the last couple of years, we've been living in a caravan and traveling all over Australia and camping, alongside other people. And it's been the most delightful thing because it's sort of felt like, even though it's a super transient community and these are people that I'm never going to see again, just that thing of, as you say, just like encountering people, like a little bit of a wave here, a smile and a nod. And it doesn't have to be a whole chunk of time out of your day, but just being present and visible around people around your home, and less of that sense of kind of private living and being enclosed and hidden away from people, um, has really made me feel so much more. I'm trying to think of what the words are. The thing coming to mind for me is at ease, but there's just been something so lovely about that. And surprising, because I probably used to think that I liked my privacy. and I'm just curious about, I think a lot of people out there, we do live in a culture that values that privacy and that division, and that sort of says, oh gosh, you don't want to have to interact with other people because God knows, what you might find yourself tangled up in. I'm curious about yourself and your partner. What do you think it was in you that predisposed you to being open to this idea and deciding to sort of share your land and your space with others in this way?
We knew it had to happen at some stage. It may not have been for another whatever many years, but if we believe in connection, our environment, then we feel we have a responsibility to do something about it. We're not living in each other's pockets, but we're there for each other. One of our neighbours, the person who is 84, her children live in other states and one overseas. She wasn't well a few months ago, and a very, very private person too, doesn't want to be a burden, but she was so unwell, I had to take her to the doctor and then to the hospital. And I said, just call on us. That is something you need to learn to accept too. It's important, and I think it probably, if I reflect back, which I tend to do a bit more now, it's related to my childhood and upbringing too. My parents had a grocery shop in the Netherlands, so we knew everybody and everybody knew us. I was sometimes concerned when my father drove the car and I was sitting next to him and he would wave here and he would wave there, and I said, "Put your hands on the steering," but we knew everybody. And I mean, we're talking a long time ago too. But that was that neighborhood and connection where, as young children, you could play with all the other children in the neighborhood. And my parents weren't having to watch me constantly because they knew we were safe in the neighborhood. Um, and I want to create that space too, where we are connected, we look out for one another. At the moment, it is one of the main diseases, our loneliness, for all ages.
Yeah.
And I find that tragic, really. So when I moved to Australia and I met my Australian husband, my parents were so surprised. I could never leave home. Had homesickness if I stayed with other people. So for me to move from the Netherlands to Australia was a huge step. And within Australia, I've lived in many different places too. And this time I said, this needs to be home. Here is where I want to be, to connect with my family, my neighbors, to have that sense of belonging, knowing that you've just recently made your move. That will be an important task for you and your family to do. Where is
Yeah.
home for us? Where do we get that sense of belonging?
Yeah. It's on my
And
mind a lot, I must say, actually, as we sort of arrive here. It's the thing that I feel the most kind of nervousness and urgency and excitement about is that prospect of, yeah, how will we find those connections and build that community and belonging? Because I've never had to do it moving into an area for the first time and doing that. So it'll be a new muscle to
yeah,
practice.
yeah,
But I think talking to people like yourself has definitely kind of inspired me to make sure that we do, really consciously do that. Because otherwise, if you don't make a concerted effort, then I think time and life can just sort of drift past and you can easily, yeah, stay just a bit siloed and in your own lane, can't you?
yes, yeah. And there are people who reach out and look out for you, but often it requires each of us to just make that move, to say good day and have a smile to someone and yeah, get talking. Where do you live? Oh, live there. Oh, you live in that village. Yeah, come and have a look if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, and really at this stage in my life, as I said, I don't want to move again. And
Mhm.
also have taken that into consideration. Our house is very big. What can we do when we get older and frailer? Can we make adaptations either within our own home or what we did do a number of years ago in the design of it, designed a house specifically for either an older person or a person with a disability. So
Mm.
if need be, if it is one of us or both of us, older and frailer, we could move there. At the moment it's rented, and I would like to see those people move because they're just fantastic neighbors. But again, keeping in mind, what can we do now? Because I don't want to move again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's the physical built environment dimension of that you've thought about and planned for in making a home that you could physically live in, but you've also set up such a rich network of support and connection around you where you are too, that, there is that to rely on and you can trust that there are people who can, yeah, keep an eye
Yeah,
out and give you a
yeah.
hand as well.
And that was part in my thinking those years ago about the Aging Well program, and that what then turned into the book, to really get people to think about these things. I'm still fit and healthy, but the time will come. So what do I need to do? And I found too often visiting clients at home that there had not been any thought given to the what ifs which could happen. And I think
Yeah,
these conversations are important to have with your partner, with your family, with others who are
absolutely.
supportive.
Absolutely, which I guess that kind of bridges into, you know, other areas where you are doing amazing work. And, there's Miller's Corner is an incredible example of a different way of living and that you've really kind of been a trailblazer of. But also, you've written a book, you host conversation circles, and you're a real advocate for people thinking early and having conversations early about aging. And I'd love to hear more about what that has looked like.
The conversations, I always feel I learn more from other people than they may learn from me. Because it's wonderful to hear people sharing their lived experiences and the things they may have put in place or they're wondering about. But sometimes I think, oh, I didn't know that. I've learned something here too. Why I do it, I don't know. I'm just passionate about this work, learning from others, sharing with others. And if, like, for example, with the book, if it helps people to start the conversation and to think about it, then that's important for me. And an example I want to give is I'm going a little bit of a way around it. A particular group I've been involved in working in regards to aging well and the Loneliness Project is that we may do certain things because of a particular study we're exploring or not, but this was a group of people who've been engaged in some of these projects. And at a particular meeting, I said, yes, this is good. We're trying to encourage other people through chit chat cafes or to neighborhood talks to engage in certain things. But I said, if I just look around this room and we have 20 people here, what if each of you knocked on your neighbor's door or organized a street party? It's very good to organize things in a community center or whatever, but what if we each took on that responsibility? What if, Anna, in a few weeks' time, you knocked on your neighbor's door and said, yeah, and
Yeah.
for some people it's extremely difficult, and you will sometimes people who say, what for? What? I'm not interested in this, and oh, well, good to know you live next door, but just leave us alone. But you may well make connections with people which become lifelong friendships or just just neighbours you say good day to.
Yeah. I was talking actually just earlier today with an amazing woman, Shani Graham, who is over in Western Australia, and she's built an amazing community in
Familiar.
Fremantle. Do you know Shani?
Shani Graham, the name rings a bell.
Oh, you might have heard of her. She's brilliant. She's done a few talks and run some projects and programs around sort of getting people to do exactly what you just said. Just organise a street get together, organise a barbecue, organise a picnic.
I know her. She did a TED talk.
Yes, she did.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it is exactly Shani Graham. I thought, I know her. I've seen her TED talk. That indeed was an inspiration. And she also inspired where my son lives in Valanga with a couple of other neighbours, and they started this off a good year before we did. So yes, she is
Ah,
the inspiration.
there you
Yes,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but so we were having a very similar conversation about, yeah, just starting with just fun and connection and getting together in a really light touch way. And it doesn't always need to be serious, you know, but that's the way to actually build these relationships. And then through those relationships, other things become possible in terms of what communities can do together and how they can support each other. And so yeah, it's funny to hear you say the same, you know, kind of start at the same place. But I'm also thinking. So you mentioned your book. It's called Aging. Let's talk about it, isn't it?
Getting older, let's talk
Getting
about it.
older. Let's talk
Yeah,
about it. That's right.
yeah.
I'm curious. What are some of the things that you talk about in that book as the sorts of conversations that you think people should be having that they're not?
One of them, and which I had to have at home too, is about looking at your living environment, looking at your home. And an example I give in the book is that in our bathroom we had this massive bath, and you had a little step to get the first step in, and then the next step into the bath. And guess where the shower was? Over the bath. So I did say to my husband, we've got to do something about this because it doesn't matter what age you are. These are tricky things. You only have to slip and you can have a very nasty fall in your bathroom. So, well, I need to practice what I preach. So a number of years ago, we had our bathroom renovated and virtually created a level floor shower. We rarely had baths, so it's much easier now. Non-slip tiles, just a good open space, and again, a lot safer for us to do. And to consider, so consider things like that. Our house is double story, bedroom is upstairs. I'm very capable of still walking up the stairs to the bedroom, but again, to consider options, what if things change? And what are the options then in regard to our house? Well, there is possibilities to just sleep downstairs and have your living space and kitchens, but it is inviting the reader to actually look at your own home scenario, where you live, or even where your house is placed. Do you need to drive the car into the township, village, whatever, to get your groceries? What support is available? So the book on every different topic just encourage you to explore some of the questions I'll leave at the end of each chapter. And it also has a chapter on friendship and connection. What are your connections? Who can you call on if help is needed? And I
You've
just
spoken to so many people about getting older, and you mentioned that you're always learning from other people and their ideas and experiences. And I'm just curious, after all of that, what sits with you as front of mind um, as the most important factors in or contributors to a really good older age?
connections, human connections, feeling supported, not alone. I'm very fortunate with a supportive husband and a wonderful children and children-in-law there, but also other people within the community. So being connected to others is so important for support. And I think I mentioned the neighbour at the front who was unwell, and then just looking out for her and say, come on, you're not well, let's take you to the doctor. And so people who look out for one another. And it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in or what abilities you have. And there are good organizations like community centers and so on and so forth who provide a lot of services and support for the older person. But again, what would you like? Because as individuals, we're all different. What is important to you?
Yeah. And one thing that I love about Miller's Corner is, as compared to the retirement village where this conversation started, where it's all people over a certain age, you've got that breadth, from children right through to people in their older age. And I'm curious about, what do you see come of those connections across the generations? In what ways do you think that the different ages benefit from that contact with each other?
And I think the young ones feel safe with the neighbours. I mentioned about these picnic in the parks we organised. A young 14-year-old resident is our main artist, and she creates the invitation. So just to engage with her and say, oh, well, how do you see we want to do it for this particular season? And so again, the connections there, they are just equally involved in our communication as participating neighbours, really.
Yeah.
So as an example, they feel safe, and often she and her brother on their rollerblades or whatever activities zoom around the corners and play activities and games. And that some families have got a young dog. That's always topic of conversation, or some neighbours do mind someone's dog when those people are away for a few days. And
Yeah.
it's just that ease of engagement.
Which, speaking of ease, I imagine it has not been easy to create Miller's Corner, and I'm curious if you could give a bit of insight into how you've actually pulled this off and how you actually got it to the point that it is today.
It's quite funny when we first went with our concept to our local council. They thought we were a bit woo and thought, oh, that's a bit bizarre. But then after a number of the houses were built, we became the show pony of the
Yeah.
area. So people from other councils were invited here to show how you can build more sustainable and how you could connect better. And so it's interesting. You need to sometimes just continue to do what you believe in and what is helpful. So, and a lot of people are now very interested and say, "Oh, we've heard about you." And I always say, "Well, come and have a look. Just make time. Come and have a look."
Do you think there's growing appetite from both people in the community to live in this way and from, say, councils to support these sorts of different forms of development?
I hope so. I think there is interest of people. And again, if we're looking about aging well, I like to see we do building care facilities or retirement villages or residential care that we consider other options. And again, in other places around the world, it is done differently and so much better. So why can't we just explore that?
Mm.
I did try many years ago to on that block of land which we could now subdivide in three. I wanted to build something which was dementia specific, but that was just absolutely a no-go because what do you mean building for people with dementia? How do we keep people safe?
Mm.
And my question was, who are we talking about? Are we talking about the residents of that house? No, the neighbors, because heaven forbid the person with dementia may just behave a bit awkwardly. Anyhow, it was tragic. They just don't get it. And when I said to a particular person who sort of attacked me in that way, and I said, "What if you and your husband needed that extra care? What would you say then?" "Yeah, no, it was all different then." And I said, "No, it's not. So we're
Mm.
all people and we need to look out for one another."
Mm.
I then try to change that concept to not dementia specific, but build a bigger house with 6 individual private apartments where each person had their own bedroom, bathroom, small living space, and a small kitchenette. But together to have a lounge room and a dining table and a bigger kitchen to enable that group of 6 to just spend time together, watch a movie together, cook a meal together, engage together. Uh, but even that seemed to be still a step too far. Yeah. Anyhow, some
Yeah.
things you have to let go, and then hopefully it will be picked up somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's baby steps, isn't it? But I guess even doing what you've done at Miller's Corner, is pushing beyond standard templates and expanding imagination about what can be done with relatively small amounts of space. So it's a very inspiring example for me, and I'm sure for many others as well who would be listening in. And I'm really grateful for all the work that you've done to bring it to life, but also for being willing to share it. And I wonder if there are any final thoughts that you have, whether it's an aspiration or a hope for how things could be, or a suggestion of how people who want to follow suit, could step in the same direction as you have there. Any final thoughts to close with?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think people should give up. If you have a dream and it's at all realistic, just keep trying it. And challenge some of the authorities, like a council or a care facility or whatever, to make a difference. I would be very nervous if at some stage in my life I need to go into residential care, as it is at the moment. Just yeah, that would concern me. That's where loneliness is rife too.
Mm.
So how can we do these things differently? But in the meantime, all of us can connect with people around us, and then we can support the young families next to us, and the young families can support the older person again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not as a burden, but as just people looking out for one another.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, which we all will need support throughout our life. And
yeah,
yeah, so it's a give and take thing, isn't it?
yeah. And that's what human being is about, isn't it? We're social animals, isn't that the way the
Mm.
expression is? So,
Yeah.
but then, having said all that, I like my privacy too. I like my time alone and all of that. It's that forever balance.
Yeah. Yes, but perhaps as a society we've swung too much towards protecting time for ourselves. Then it's
Yeah,
time to move a little bit back in the other
yeah.
direction. Mm.
And too much screen time.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, very true. Very true.
Leah, thank you so much for talking with us and for sharing your amazing story and work. We'll share links for people who might want to look up more information about Miller's Corner with this video. But in the meantime, thank you, and looking forward to hopefully coming and visiting there another time soon.
I'd love to see you again. Good to talk, Anna. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Leah.
Enjoy the rest of your day and all the best with getting your home in order.
Thank you.
Good, good. See ya.